back at it like we left something. What's going on, y'all? It's your man Furious Styles, your hip-hop loving, video game playing, time traveling homie from YouTube that's been doing this since lemonade was a popular drink. And this just in, and it still is. Wonderful. And welcome to another episode of my Retro Report Card, where I take a trip through time to see if games from yesteryear are worth being in our collection or hell, even worth a look. Now this episode is going to require a bit of explanation because this is going to be a big deal for me. If you watched my last episode, I made a quick quip about my upbringing before I went back to July 2012. Hey, roll it. Because I was a punk when I was a kid. And today, I've decided to take another trip down the horror route. I promise I won't revisit said route for a couple of episodes. Now I'm a huge horror movie fan, but despite that, I'm not really into horror survival like that. I think it's because while it's a horror movie, it's just a movie. Like nothing's gonna come out of the screen and just jump at me or anything like that. Even though there was that one time that me and my cousin watched The Ring, and then after we were done, the phone rang. Yeah. But horror survival games are like haunted houses to me. Since I have a bit more control, I'm a bit more apprehensive. And this is a bit less colorful than my last episode. Not to mention, this is the first time I'll be playing a game on the Gamecube. So, story time. I was originally in high school when the Gamecube dropped in 2001. And since I was more into fictional violence, dirty words,
I got with them motherfuckers though, sold them niggas who's gangster, ride a
and scantily clad women.
It's useless to resist me.
As was the style at the time. And seeing as GameCube didn't really have much of that going on at the time, I pretty much avoided it. Like Jay-Z and He Who Shall Not Be Named's collab album, Best of Both Worlds, and Adventures of Pluto Nash DVD, or an episode of That 80s Show.
Boo! You stink!
Now if you understand those obscure references, then you probably realize where our destination for today's episode is gonna be, which is gonna be June of 2002. I feel like a damn Power Ranger when I do this. Let's go black to the future! God, I gotta workshop that. Why does 2002 look so weird? Wow. Okay, for real though, I don't know if I look like I deal drugs in 2002 or I do drugs in 2025. Either way, William S. Sessions is gonna be really disappointed in me. And for today's episode, we're gonna be playing the psychological horror title, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, from defunct but not forgotten developer Silicon Knights and published by Ayo! And published by Nintendo. They publish Nintendogs too. I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about today, but I just find it interesting that they publish so many wholesome stuff and then they publish, you know, this. Weird. So seeing as I know exactly why I didn't give this game 2 looks, I had to do a bit of research to see what the heck I was playing at the time of release. Come to find out, Dead to Rights on Xbox. And I'll take it. It was fun, right? Right? So finding this game was a bit of an ordeal. It just seemed way too expensive for a game that I've never played. Like, for example, I'd gladly shell out a bit more for, say, Power Stone 2 on Dreamcast, because I absolutely love that game. But would I dare gamble on a game that might not be worth it? I guess so. I mean, I really wouldn't be doing this show if I wasn't willing to do it.
Duh.
Either way, I ended up finding a loose copy on eBay. This copy, being the original game and original case, came to a grand total of $58.99. So like the price of a used new release on PS5 or Xbox Series X. But the real question is, did I get a good deal? Well, according to the fine folk at pricecharting.com, a loose copy of Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem is valued at $69.97, meaning I came out with a profit of $10.98. Well, if this game ain't straight butt, that's a damn fine deal. Anyways, if this is your first time watching the show, which, seeing as this is only the second episode, is kind of possible, I review these games on a 5-point grading scale, looking at graphics, sound, control, fun factor, very important, and challenge. Now, despite my gangster presence, remember, for real, remember, this is my first survival horror experience. So if you laugh, I'm gonna get my older cousin to beat your ass. I can't. Y'all supporting me, so I kindly ask you to not laugh by getting my older cousin to beat your. So in this game, we play as Alex Roivas, a mathematics major. Nerd! And the last remaining survivor of the Roivas bloodline after her grandfather is murdered. Underwhelmed with the more questions than answers, she begins to investigate the murder herself. But as she delves deeper into her grandfather's affairs, she quickly and reluctantly finds herself as the last bastion for humanity against an ancient evil that mankind has been in a centuries-long, global-spanning war with. With the mysterious Tome of Eternal Darkness and the misadventures of 12 unlikely and vastly different heroes throughout time, Alex is tasked with banishing this threat for good, all while localized in her family's estate. Crazy enough story, but is this psychologically haunting simulation more like a classic Stephen King novel? Or more like a U-Bowl cinematic abortion? Let's pop it in and find out. So as soon as you start the game, you're given this excerpt from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven with the voice actor doing his best Vincent Price impersonation.
Long I stood there, wondering, fearing.
This ain't Thriller, homie, calm down. And then we start with a quick introduction from our narrator for this game, Dr. Edward Roivas, scholar, clinical psychologist, family man, and apparently recent murder victim. We hardly knew ye. No, seriously, like, we just met you and you already got murdered. How'd that work? What are you, like Bruce Willis from The Sixth Sense? Look, man, y'all had like 26 years to watch this damn movie. It ain't a spoiler no more. Anyways, he goes on about his family throughout the generations trying to stop the end of the world, and it all comes down to his granddaughter, Alex. And then we're introduced to Alex by dropping her in a locked bedroom with a bunch of shambling zombies, and a shotty with limited ammo. Oh, and no idea how to shoot. Even as I went through this ordeal, I was completely button mashing, hoping that not only shooting them would put them down, but that I could even find the right button to shoot. Hell of a tutorial level. I foolishly run out of bullets, and a cutscene starts where Alex foolishly attempts to escape out the door before a hologram. That's supposed to be a ghost. Why does it look like AI? Tron looking ass. Ghost of, I assume Dr. Edward Roivas, confronts her and they share some type of touching moment before she's inevitably eaten by zombies. Plot twist. It was all a dream when Alex is awakened by a phone call at, according to the Chinese, the worst possible time. She gets a call to get out to her granddad's mansion ASAP because there's been an accident. Pretty sure if you just delete his cookies and reboot him, he'd be alright. You know, because he's a holo. Anyways, Alex goes to the mansion and shares a tense moment with Detective Sam Bullock. Who lets her know her granddad's dead, or at least they think it's him because he ain't got no head. And unfortunately, that's a pretty important part of identifying someone with the use of dental records. Well, they ain't gonna fly for our strong female lead, Alex, who does what any brilliant person in a horror story does. Let the police investigate and not get involved. Vow revenge and insert herself into a situation she's not equipped to handle. Now when we start off in the mansion, I'm already on edge. I mean, damn, they already had me popping zombies without warning. So I'm pretty cautious about roaming through this place. I'm just saying, something jumps out at me, this episode's over. But I think it goes into how well the developers designed this dimly lit gothic mansion. For the Gamecube to be so underpowered compared to its competition, Silicon Knights does a great job with what they have. Like, the environment just looks mad unsettling, from the pictures of the creepiest and most disapproving family members this side of the atoms, to the rundown furniture and fixtures. Exploring the secrets of this mansion is making me think twice about picking this game for this episode. No, like, seriously, I had to play this in the daytime. I'm not gonna inexplicably find myself in a position I don't want to be in. Macho Man probably rolling in his grave. Now remember earlier when I said that thing about the 12 unlikely heroes? Well, the 12 chapters of this Tome of Eternal Darkness not only tells Alex of their exploits, but you also have to play as these individuals, and they're all armed with different weapons, tools, skill sets, attributes, and abilities. Okay, editor's note. So in order to make my recording deadline, because, you know, I'm only one man. One sexy, tall drinker. Okay, alright. Who the f keeps laughing? I have a hard stop of 7 hours. I feel like that gives me enough time to assess how good these games are. That being said, 7 hours only got me to 7 chapters. And I feel like there's a lot more game to explore. So my willingness to continue will hinge on this review. But let's get back to the task at hand. So in the 7 chapters of the game I completed, I stepped into the shoes of Pius, an ancient Roman military commander who ends up becoming the main antagonist, Ilya, a Cambodian court dancer from the year 1150 AD, Anthony, a Frankish messenger for King Charlemagne in the early Middle Ages, Requiem, the GOAT, a Persian nobleman who ain't no joke with the swordplay, Maximilian Roivas, a doctor in colonial New England who not only inherits the manor you're playing in, but an ancestor of Alex and Edward, Dr. Edwin Lindsay, an Indiana Jones-esque archaeologist from the 1980s, and Brother Paul Luther, a Franciscan monk around the time of the Inquisition. Now, each of these chapters take place in a different stage for the most part. Ilya and Edwin's chapter takes place in the same Cambodian temple, and despite being 730 years apart, they end up running into each other. And the same goes for Anthony and Brother Paul. In fact, Paul has to fight a zombified Anthony in his chapter. Both of their chapters take place in a French cathedral. I highlight these 4 chapters because it's kind of dope to see how the level expands and changes between the 2 time periods. For example, in Anthony's chapter, he's localized to one part of the cathedral. However, in Brother Paul's chapter, the cathedral looks completely different. However, once you get the key to the old cathedral, it brings you right back to Anthony's neck of the woods. His decrepit, abandoned neck of the woods. From a graphic standpoint, all the levels look good, especially for the time. And I mean every damn place looks creepy, from the underground tunnels of the cathedrals, to the trap rooms of the Cambodian temples, to the mansion libraries, and ruins of the Forbidden City. I really can't say anything looks particularly bad, probably because I was too scared about what was around the corner. Now, I'll admit, some of the creature designs look, dare I say, awkward. Or like they belong more in a sci-fi game like Halo, compared to this one. But once again, it being the cube, I can make an exception. To be fair, most of the monsters do the job. Which leads me to the sound. Oh, the sound. Well, the music is alright. Some level songs are better composed than others, but the real winner when it comes to the sound are the sound effects. The whispers and some of the random cries intermingled with the creepy music really fortifies the fear factor for the game. It's always keeping you on your toes. You don't know if that groaning is part of the track or a corpse headed for you. Usually I'd mark it down for that, but seeing how well it adds to the horror element, it actually makes the sound better. I mean, the voice acting can be a bit overdramatic, making some of the cutscenes come off more goofy than good, but with the other interesting parts of the game, more on that later, it can be forgiven. Let's go ahead and get to the controls. Now, this one's gonna be a bit tricky, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Honestly, I thought it'd be as bad as the Nintendo 64, and it wasn't. For the amount of things that Alex and the rest can do, it's amazing how well the control scheme is laid out. The controls are reactive and work well. The only real issue was getting used to the targeting system. So with your weapons, you can target the head, arms, and torso of monsters, and in doing so, capitalize on weak points or affect the monster's strategy of attack. It does take some getting used to, but once you figure it out, it becomes less of a good idea if it worked correctly, to just being a good idea. Though it does get chaotic when you're in the thick of battle. Like for instance, the weakest character I played as is far and away Brother Paul, who easily has the lowest physical skills and worst weapons of any character. He can use a mace and gets a crossbow, but his reloading time may be the worst for any long-range character. So fighting a horror, one of the tank enemies in the game, was a chore. And in the midst of fighting this horror, my aim was all over the place. Once again, in the context of this game, it works, but can be frustrating. The only other issues worth mentioning is combat within closed spaces. I mainly had this issue in the cathedral stage with Anthony and Brother Paul when trying to swing my double-edged sword at zombies in a hallway, which was actually pretty difficult. I kept hitting walls and had to maneuver awkwardly to get a decent vantage point. But as you get a feel for the game, it does get better. Okay, so enough with the physical mechanics of the game. This is where the main talking points of this game lie, the fun factor, and we got a whole lot to unpack on this part. So Eternal Darkness is by far one of the most unique experiences I've had a chance to partake in. The Tome of Eternal Darkness is not only essential to the story, but it's also pretty much the most important tool in your arsenal. It holds your runes and codex, which are key pieces to designing and performing spells. Spells are varied in effects, but they not only help you in completing many of the puzzles and getting through dead ends in the game, but they also give you an edge in combat. Depending on the runes that you use to cast these spells, they can also turn battles against monsters of varying classifications into light work. Speaking of these classifications, in Chapter 1, while playing as Pius, you're given a choice of the god you want to oppose or something. Either way, you're not given much info on what you're choosing between. but once you choose, it affects the rest of your entire playthrough. There's also a paper, rock, scissors deal between these opposing gods, so as soon as you realize what the order is in Maximilian's chapter, it does give a bit more complexity in your later challenges. The other dope part about these chapters is everything you do in these past chapters affects Alex in the present day. So if you miss out on a rune or spell in the appropriate chapter, it means unfortunately Alex won't have it in her tome in 2000 AD and may not be able to get it in another. So missing out on opportunities is a huge detriment in not only the present but later chapters. And this goes even further. For example, in Anthony's chapter, he starts out with this rinky-dink Scaramax or whatever. But if you're able to save this random monk from the zombies in the basement of the cathedral, you get this awesome double-edged sword and it makes your chapter a breeze combat-wise. Fast forward to Paul's chapter, where fighting and defeating Anthony's reanimated corpse not only drops a ruby, which is needed to complete the chapter, but you also get the same sweet double-edged sword back. And Lord knows this straight buster needs it. There's also this cool original skill that Maximilian has where instead of finishing monsters, which gives you a bit of a boost and something I'll get into soon, he actually performs sort of an autopsy on them. You know, because he's a doctor. And doing this gives Alex a few hints on killing these monsters. However, if you fail to do this in Maximilian's chapter, Alex only gets complete nonsense in the notes portion of the tome. Now remember the god thing I was telling you about? Well, each of the gods are associated with one of your meters. Red is for your health, self-explanatory. Blue is for your magic, with a K, y'all. But the green is by far what makes Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem what it is. Your sanity meter. This is where the main nightmare field for this game is. Your sanity meter keeps you sane and seeing the game for what it actually is. Once you see a monster, this begins to affect your grip on reality, and starts not only driving whatever character you're playing as insane, but hell, even you the player. The effects of low sanity starts out small. Mainly the level starts to tilt to one side and looks sort of like a shot from a low-budget 60s horror film. But then, stranger occurrences start to happen. You start hearing strange sound effects. Loud knocking on doors, women and babies crying, and if that's not enough to let you know that this ain't right, random walls start to leak blood. But when your sanity is at its lowest, your game gets interrupted in some of the most meta ways possible. In my run, I've had my character enter a room tiny, randomly off myself, turn my TV off, lose all of my inventory, make unkillable monsters appear that weren't actually there, give me random phone calls.
Hello?
Remember me, Alex?
This can't be happening.
Replayed cutscenes I've already played with vastly different intention in dialogue.
My dear Alex, I will always be at your side. There are times when insanity takes hold, and nothing seems right. During those times, I will help you. Fear not.
Help me, Grandpa. I can't take this anymore.
Don't be so weak, Alex. You have a stronger mind than this. I didn't bring up a weakling, not a scared wretch of a girl.
You kept all this from me. You kept me alone. You shared nothing with me.
I couldn't. I could never give you the burden. I just wanted you to grow up. To grow up and leave me alone.
And easily the worst one of all, almost made me go berserk on the guy who sold me this game on eBay with this little number right here. What the? Oh hell!
This
Nope.
isn't
I'm out.
really.
I'm out. I quit. The craziest part, even in 7 hours, I don't even think I scratched the surface of the insanity this game brings. While absolutely freaky and often keeping me on my toes, I couldn't help but be amused about this aspect of the game, which I know had to be why this game is so fondly remembered. The Lovecraftian nature of it is the shiznit faux shizzle. I mean, come on, y'all. It's 2002. I mean, you see how bad this camera looks? Anyways, I think we progressed far enough to rate this game pretty fairly. The question is it worth it? Is this possibly one of the better games on the failed console that was the Nintendo Gamecube? Or is this one of the reasons that the Nintendo Gamecube failed? Now, before we hit it with that judgment, let me go ahead and hit you off with a fact that I learned, and then you can learn and use it in something else or whatever. So that Sanity system is kind of cool, right? But have you ever wondered why you haven't seen another system like that around the time of this game? Basically, it's because Nintendo actually patented the Sanity system 2 years before the game shipped. And the patent just expired 4 years ago. And knowledge is power. I mean, the more you... Damn it! But let's get at it. How well did this game age? Graphics. Alright, so this being the first GameCube game that I've actually played, it's a little tough to gauge. However, I was able to compare it to some other GameCube titles, and truthfully, it's just sort of average. The environments are decent, but comparing it to, say, Resident Evil, which dropped on the GameCube a couple of months before Eternal Darkness did, and remains one of the best games graphically for the Cube, it's just unfortunately okay. Even though points for whoever designed Mantarok the Corpse God. I mean, look at it. Look at it! But graphics wise, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 3.0.
It's alright.
Sound. Now, this right here is gonna be a tale of two stories. The voice acting is passable, but not spectacular. The music is alright, but nothing to turn up on. But the real star when it comes to the sound is the sound effects. It's not amazing or anything, it's definitely how it's used and how it adds to the unease of being in this big ass house. It's doing a lot without having a lot, and it's got to get some points for that. I think it's appropriate to give it a 3.5.
Oh yeah!
Controls. The controls work, and honestly they work well. It takes some time getting used to, but the learning curve ain't that steep. The only problem I have with the controls is the proximity of some of your attacks at certain times in the game. But otherwise, the controls are definitely solid. I think it's earned enough for a 4.5.
Hell yeah.
Fun factor. So I think I spent the most time in this video harping on how well everything comes together in this part of the game. And it's good. I mean, damn good. Mechanics, the sanity system, the magic, the puzzles, it all blends amazingly. However, it's not perfect. In Edwin's chapter, I blew like 30 or 45 minutes attempting to navigate my way back to a door that I had unlocked by finding the required room. And it became so tedious and mind-numbing. In the Brother Paul chapter, I pretty much blazed right through it. However, there was a book that I was supposed to get early on in the level that would have helped me out at the bell tower. And truthfully, I wasted about 35 or 45 minutes trying to figure it out. And before that, in Anthony's chapter, there's a broken jar that you have to find all the pieces for, mix them back together, and then cast a spell that makes the jar whole again. But when I tried to cast the spell, it didn't work. I tried it 2 or 3 times and it still didn't work, so I decided to go ahead and restart the entire level. And then somehow, when restarting the entire level and getting back to that part, the spell actually worked. While it's a great game, it can be frustrating at times, but the wildness of that sanity meter definitely lowers the booty. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and reluctantly give it a 4.5.
Hell yeah.
Challenge. Now, I think the tedious actions that you have to go through in the game kind of ramp this up a bit. It can be tough at times, but the game does do a great job of balancing explaining what you have to do and having to figure it out your own damn self. If your memory is pretty good, you might have a leg up on the competition. But seeing as the difficulty is not adjustable, and going with how much you have to remember, whether it be the spells or locations, not to mention strategy with your firearms and weapons and ammo, I'll say the challenge is probably more like advanced. So there we go, my first time playing a GameCube game, and it's honestly an experience that I would like to complete one day. But overall, it gets a retro report card grade of a C+, which is still high passing, so that's gotta be worth something. Well, either way, I'm gonna go ahead and throw on that camera and come home with me and go ahead and watch The Wire on my TiVo. That's right, big bout. Or I might just need to head back home. Either way, if you know a game that we need to go ahead and check out for our collection, go ahead and hit me up on that Insta, or Twitter, or X, or whatever the hell we're calling it these days, at Fury S Styles. One word, Z at the end. Thanks for watching, hit that subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time.